Right, let's have a quick look at buffering features within a layer, and we're going to use a point layer to demonstrate this. So we have a point layer with a single point in, and we have a Google satellite imagery base map. To create your buffer, go to Vector, Geoprocessing Tools, and Buffer. Select what layer your features that you want to buffer in. Obviously we've only got one feature here and it's not selected, so this won't highlight, but I'll show you this in a second. Choose your distance you want to buffer from. Number of segments is basically the number of segments in the entire buffer shape divided by 4 for some reason. So it's the number of segments per quarter rather than for the whole shape. Down here you have the option of creating a temporary layer, or by clicking here you can actually give it a file name and a file path and actually save it as a shapefile, but we're just going to run it as a temporary layer. So if we run that, that's our buffer done and closed. That's the very basics. Next, what if we had multiple features that we wanted to buffer around? So let's just remove this temporary layer. Let's add some new points in. And let's just save that layer. So do the same thing again. We'll put a 10-meter buffer around all 3 of these shapes. Everything's the same as before. Run, and then there's our buffers. Let's remove that. Say we wanted a bigger buffer of 50, and run. If these buffers overlap and you run through here without clicking dissolve, then you will get a separate shape, a separate feature for each buffer. If you do press the dissolve button and run, then you will just get a single shape that represents the buffer around all the individual points. Our next option is to only buffer around selected points. So let's select a single point. Actually, let's select 2 points and then run a 10-meter buffer around that. Not interested in dissolving. Run. Oh, I think I forgot to click that button there. There we go, and we buffer just around those selected points. So what if we wanted to create a series of concentric buffers around a point? Let's remove this here. We're going to look at 3 different ways of creating this. Each have their own strengths, each have their own weaknesses, all depends what you are trying to achieve. So we're just going to look at a single point rather than multiple points for this one. So let's just get rid of 2 of these and we'll leave 1 in place. So let's create 3 buffers, a 30 meter, a 20 meter and a 10 meter. So we can create the 30. Let's actually create this as a proper file this time. Yep, that's the correct place, and this is going to be our 30 meter buffer. So let's just give that a name of 30. Let's now create a 20. I can just edit that there. That's a 20 meter buffer, and then a 10 meter buffer. Move our point layer to the top so it's showing on top of the buffers, and then there, that's a 10, 20 and 30 meter buffer. If we are just looking for a visual buffer and we're not going to be doing any calculations and we're not bothered about the fact that the 30 meter buffer is the whole 30 meters and not just 20 to 30 meters, And so the 20 meters is also the full 20 meters and not the 10 meters to the 20 meter region, then happy days, we can live with this. This is what we've produced. If you are like me and like to minimize the number of actual shape files you have in a project and combine these into one, then what we can do is actually go to data management tools and merge these together. We select the layers that we want to include. We give it a coordinate reference system, and also we're going to save this as well. So that's the 10, 20, 30 meter buffer merged layer. If we run that, we then have these three buffers together, but obviously they've only got a single symbol. So we want to go to categorize symbology based on the layer name, which was the 10, 20 and 30 that we renamed these two before. I'm going to take off that one because that's just for anything else, and apply. And that should show us the 10, 20 and 30 meter buffer on top of each other, but the problem is we haven't specified the order that these should appear, and we can't just drag and drop here. That doesn't work. You need to go into layer rendering, control the rendering order, and because we've given them the names and the values of 10, 20 and 30, we can basically say that we want it descending, so we want to draw the 30 meter first, then the 20, then the 10. So if we apply that now, there we go, we have them displayed in that order, going from 30 to 20 to 10 on top of each other, so then they now draw nicely without overlapping each other. If we were bothered about the fact that the 30 meter buffer is a full 30 meters and not the difference between the 20 meter and the 30 meter, so it's not just this single ring without this green bit in the middle. If we were bothered about that, then we're going to have to do something different. So I'm just going to hide this layer now. We've got our 10 and 20 and 30 here already. What we're going to have to do now is use a different geoprocessing tool, and that is difference. So basically what this tool does is overlaps the two shapes together, and wherever those shapes don't overlap, then it's going to create a shape based on that. So if we run that, we can see now our difference shape is the 20 and 30, and the difference between these two layers, which is basically the 20 to 30 meter overlap, not the overlap, the 20 to 30 meter zone. And we'll do that once more with the 20 and the 10. And we'll run that, and then we can. So what we have now is the 10 to 20, and the 20 to 30. Let's just give these a different name. So let's rename that as 10 to 20. And rename this as 20 to 30. So we can see with these that 10 to 20 is the ring, doesn't include the 10 in the middle, and the 20 to 30 is the ring, around the 20 and up to the 30 meters. So then we can, we could even, now I'm not going to bother renaming that 0 to 10, but basically we can now merge these. Vector data management, merge. So we want to merge the 10, the 10 to 20, and the 20 to 30. Okay. Let's just give this a slightly different name. Non-overlapping buffer. Run. Let's turn everything else off here. And because we haven't got any overlaps in here, we don't have to worry about controlling the rendering of the layer. We can just come into categorized, categorize that by layer, and then we can play about with the colors that we want from here. So that's a couple of different ways of creating the same thing, which is basically just a concentric ring around a feature. In this case it was a point. It all depends ultimately what you're trying to achieve, whether you are just wanting something visual, where just using the first method of creating a 10, 20 and 30 meter buffer and just controlling their rendering through the layers panel is good enough. If you want them all in one layer, then obviously you're going to have to play with the rendering, or you're going to have to kind of split the difference between the layers, so there's not actually any overlaps between these features. So hope you found that useful. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.